I'm just laughing at that intro that D made. This wasn't me. Welcome to Perpetual-Time show. How is everyone today? We've got Thomas.
Hi,
Say
guys.
hello, Thomas. And we've got the professor as well. How is the professor today?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Good, good. So, Thomas, what's the agenda today? What are we going to talk about? What do you think? We've got a D that's about to join us now.
Hello, guys.
Hey.
So, El Professor, that's Carlos in the house.
We've got a teacher here. We've got a teacher here.
I've been very naughty. Sorry, I never got my coursework in on time. Thomas, good to see you, my friend. Alexandros, pospais, gala.
Ulla gala dame, you see?
Fantastic. Yeah, not bad, not bad at all.
And I was just laughing at the intro, D.
You like that little something I put together for the protein fund for Alex?
Yeah, I want to start off with a couple of questions for Alex. First, you said you hated titanium and it was garbage. I remember you saying in a couple of streams ago it was garbage.
Yeah.
What do you think of the new titanium Yacht-Master?
Well, I think with titanium watches, it's all about the feel. So I would love to try that watch on and actually feel it. I just want to see how Rolex have actually used the titanium to make a watch, one of their own watches from it. Because for me, titanium is the disadvantage is that it's so light. I totally respect that it's, you know, it's very hard wearing, but it's very, very light, and also it's very difficult to refinish as well. Some watch brands will not refinish their own watches in titanium, but it's an unforgiving material, because when you pick it up, it's like when you go to pick up a glass of water thinking it's full, and your hand goes like this. You know, with titanium, it's just very light, and we consider, well, not we, myself, whenever I pick up a watch that's light, automatically I feel as though it's not worth value, which is wrong to say, because the likes of Richard Mille are very light, but they're light in differences because of the material. So a bit of I'm contradicting myself, but yes.
What's the case diameter on this, guys? What's the case diameter on this? Is it 42 mil? So it's quite a substantial watch. So I can imagine it being, you know, a little bit more heavier than say a 40 millimeter, you know, and it's on a bracelet as well. And don't forget, it's Rolex titanium. So, you know what I mean? It could be the world of a difference, you know?
It will be interesting to see what this watch will go for on the, and I don't like to say grey market, because grey just sounds bad, but like the non-authorized market, no doubt it's probably going to quadruple.
It's going to be hot, I think.
Then it's going to settle down. It will go really high and it'll settle down, I think.
Coming in at about
100%.
£12, I think. And I mean, for me, it looks like what a modern day Submariner should look like, I think.
Yeah. I agree with Thomas here.
I really like the black top bezel on it, and the sort of rubber. I don't know whether it's rubber bezel like the Yacht-Master 42 normally has, but that sort of black top bezel look. I think the bezel looks really contemporary, really modern, and for me, it looks just like what a modern day Submariner Mark II should look like. You know?
It seems quite sexy, a bit, you know, something about it that I like. I have to feel it, put it on the wrist, get a feel for it. I'll probably do that at the next Rolex VIP event I attend. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to see, out of all the pieces, how that will wear on the wrist. Oh, Professor, you're muted, sir. What are your thoughts?
No, thank you. It's going to be, 33% lighter than the Submariner. The dial looks nice for people like myself who are aging. You guys are all getting younger. If you have astigmatism like I do, you need to have a clock. So the dial looks clean. what my disappointment was that they hyped the anticipation for the titanium Yacht-Master by having it a couple of years ago without a date with the yachtsman, Sir Bingsley or whatever his name is. Yeah. And he had the no date prototype. So there was a lot of hype around that. And here they are producing a date Yacht-Master at 42. So, they really, I think, disappointed some of the folks who were waiting for something like that. Having said that, it's a clean dial, lighter, and I think it will, going for 14 USD thousand. It's on the high side. Again, you could claim that it requires special machining because it's special metal and so forth. I don't know if the non-authorized Rolex people have enough experience with the material in the next 5 years to be able to repair such a watch, because the way they have done it is on the side of the case, it's horizontally brushed, and of course it's aggressively brushed, and that creates all kinds of issues for you guys. And I think it will be a hot piece because it has been waiting. What will happen for Rolex is that the Yacht-Master line will be revitalized. I think clearly that will be one takeaway. The second takeaway is that eventually, and not yet, they will come out with a true Submariner, but not yet. I think now they're putting a lot of the hype on the GMT, which clearly surpasses the hypeness along the Submariner line, and the Yacht-Master now has received a lot of hype. And if you cannot get the Yacht-Master 42, people will shift into the other material. Last year they did the white gold. Sorry, the washing machine here. So I think now they are creating the icons for every segment of the brand, and if it becomes unobtainable, they will move down, and so people are going to be mesmerized with the icon, and then they'll get them into to buy all the other stuff, which is a very wise strategy.
Yeah. I mean, JJ said in the comments that they should have made a Submariner, but I think you're right, Professor. I mean, it elevates the Yacht-Master to a different level of lust for punters, I suppose.
They're creating some hype around that lineup of the Rolex range. I mean, it was very much needed. We're talking about the Yacht-Master now. They could have very easily done their Submariner route, but they decided it's very tactical, I think, to use this material within the Yacht-Master range, because now it's going to get everyone looking at the rest of the lineup. They're attractive watches, but we've never come out of a release date and started talking about the Yacht-Master. It's always been about the other variations within the lineup. But I was quite intrigued a little bit about there is so-called an anniversary Submariner. There's a different color Kermit, different color green. Apparently, I don't know if this is true.
No.
Is it not true? Yeah, or is it just the lighting is different?
No, look, as you know, the lighting, and also the coloration happens because of different materials being used over time.
Right. Yes.
Right.
So,
but Rolex will never become such an obtuse brand to secretly, quote unquote, present a model that has no presentation behind it. This year it was all about the Daytona. This was the year of the Daytona.
Yes.
So, secretly, this is, unfortunately, the YouTube world has the illiterates and the ignorance, and people who want to make noise around it. And so
Yeah.
Rolex will never allow for this thing to pass. You know, they're not going to secretly have an anniversary model, but they're not going to claim it's an anniversary model because they want to use the hype. So the time will come. Look, Rolex was never going to do an anniversary for the Submariner if it has two anniversaries at the same year. And
Yes.
especially when they revamped the model, the Submariner, very recently. So they will do an anniversary model, and what they will do, which they do quite well, is they will create anxiety and pontification, and they will do it at a time when nobody is expecting it. You know, they will have the punters producing colored fake fonts, you know, all these
It's
pictures that
happening
they
already.
release. Yeah, this is all unfortunately happening because of ignorance and illiteracy.
Do you think they use the Yacht-Master as a tester because of the titanium? Do you think they will test titanium with the Yacht-Master and then see what happens after? I mean, because let's be honest, I mean, titanium is a very, you have to be very careful when producing a watch out of titanium, because it's not that, I personally don't think it's the best sort of material to produce a watch in. I just think they're testing the water. But I mean, because I think Rolex will be the only company where a watch that's in titanium will be worth 2 or 3 times as much.
Yeah.
I don't know any other brand that could produce a watch in titanium that's going to go for more than its RRP. Okay, most Rolexes go for more than RRP, but the fact that it's a titanium sports model, I think it's going to go extremely high and then probably level out and still be double of what it would be a retail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is the unique thing about Rolex, isn't it? If anyone can do that, it will be them. They're a very unique brand. They position themselves in the marketplace unlike any other brand, if I'm being honest with you. But don't forget, they did experiment with titanium with the Tudor Pelagos, you know, which has been a major success. Deep Sea Challenge as well, but that's more of a museum piece, isn't it? I don't see people wearing that. It's not going to be popular, to be fair. So if you do get your hands on one, yes, it's a great investment piece. I can see that being very much a museum piece. But what really did catch my attention as well was that mint green Sky Dweller. I just think that's a very nice, unique green, and I compared it to the Omega Seamaster green. My God, Omega got that green wrong. The green they used on that Sky Dweller is
Uncle John was asking about that. What do we think of the mint green Sky Dweller? Yeah. Nice watch.
I think
the color of the moment.
I think it's nice.
Is it better than the blue, or is it just the color of the moment?
Because green is like the color of Rolex, isn't it? If you look at Tudor, the burgundy red is the color of Tudor. Green, no matter what you do, green is always going to be a bit of a delicacy within the Rolex lineup. It's always perceived to be, you know, a hype piece. But I just love the color. I prefer that sort of mint green over than the day-date green. I think it's beautiful, to be fair.
Yeah, there's only one green, and that's Rolex green. Let's be honest. I mean, Rolex do a beautiful green. You know, beautiful green. Every time you see green, I always think of Rolex. To be honest, I always think of Rolex.
Yeah, I mean, they did it with the GV on the Mille, now discontinued Mille. Did it with the GV glass on there, the Glace Vert, which was lovely green, and that's Rolex's green signature. And yeah, you're right. You think of green, it is their signature color.
Professor, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
What was Rolex thinking when they made that day with those awful emojis and the stupid faith and love? I mean, what planet were they on? What were they smoking?
This is what they call Garagosi Rolon.
Yeah,
that means
you know, it's they have the ability to produce and to fulfill the wishes of anyone. And if you look at the numbers for 2022 released for Rolex, they're now commanding 29.1% of the global luxury watch market, which is very scary, right? I mean, they are at the helm of the other five following Rolex are the size of Rolex, right? So they can come up with anything: love, hate, prison, emoji, Kongoji, Kamboji, whatever they want to do, and you know they'll be very successful. We always make the mistake that whatever we consider, you know, so-called punters, experts, pundits, and so forth, whatever we consider to be less interesting, 20 years down the road, it becomes hype, it becomes interesting. It's like the dials of the day-date of the 80s and 90s
It's
are
interesting you say
today.
that.
You know,
I understand
these
that.
things, yeah, these things, they only someone like Rolex can produce them, and they wanted to do it just to show to the world that there is a certain funkiness. Now, I don't think a 25-year-old software engineer is going to go out and buy this, but the fact that they did it sends out a message that, you know, there is a soft undertone to the firm, that they do have the capacity to produce such things, like, you know, the OP that had all the colors of the moon and the sun.
Well,
The
sorry, go on.
Yeah. So, you know, it's basically telling us that we have a side to us which is not a boring evolution type of thing. Many people call the Daytona evolutionary. I think it was a revolutionary 60th model. It's nothing comparable to the previous ones, but they did something very tactical. They did two things very tactical. And sorry for digressing. I'll throw it out there because I'll forget it. If you may allow me, Alex, can I say the two
Yes,
things I
yeah,
wanted to
no.
about the
Okay,
Daytona?
of course.
Yeah. The Daytona did two things. One is that they produced at the same time a model for the entire segment, right? Never before has it been done, which basically means that Rolex has advanced its production of vertical integration. And never in the history of a model do we see the production of a precious metal as well as all the other two-tone and single metal stainless steel models. It was always before the precious metal one being produced, and few years later the two-tone, and then a few years later the steel model being produced. So this is very important in terms of the business side of the company. People just are maybe not so observant. I look at the business history of the Swiss watch industry very closely. So that is a milestone for Rolex, right? When they produced the GMT in 2005, they did the precious metal, then they did the two-tone, and then they produced the black on black, right? So that's very important. Secondly, although it was a revolutionary development, they made it so that they don't aggravate the previous owners of the Daytona line, because they know very well that had they changed it in a extreme way, so it went to really 41.5 or 42 millimeters, but really 41, and it was quite visible, a lot of people would have been upset because they would end up with a watch from the previous iteration, which would have dissatisfied them. So today, the owners of the previous model feel that, okay, I have something that is quite similar to the one they produced, although from a horological perspective, it is a revolutionary movement because they did change many things in it, but for commercial reasons, they cannot announce that, oh, it's really a very different model. They claim that it's evolutionary and so forth. But, the movement is quite robust. They made it even more robust. So this is about the Daytona, but again, back to this issue. This is a classic new Rolex thinking that basically says, I can do the funky stuff as well as the more serious stuff, and I want to be known for a little bit of funkiness, even if 99% of the world will say this is completely gimmicky and Mickey Mouse, and what do I do with this?
Yeah,
Thank
they
you.
have a habit. They have a habit of doing this off catalog, don't they? Is this watch actually in the actual Rolex catalog? Does anybody know? Has anyone got an example from Watches and Wonders yet? In the chat, maybe? Because normally they have some funky Rolexes that you never see in the catalog, off catalog sometimes as well. I'm wondering if this is one of them, to be fair. But Alex, you've got a super chat from Giuseppe, Brothers in Time. I think
Thank you, Giuseppe. Yeah, it's disappeared, which I think is my fault. So once it comes back up, I apologize. I kind of.
Shall I read it? I've got it here.
Yeah.
Good evening, chaps. Great panel and good show. P.S. I'd gladly own that day for my own collection. Well, Giuseppe, we hope you're not what people were commenting in the chat.
I mean,
only winding you up, Giuseppe.
Professor, can I say something about this particular day? So when Rolex were making their stone dials all those years ago, do you think they were commenting of what we're commenting now about this dial?
Can you elaborate?
Well, basically, it probably was a shock factor to them that Rolex would do stone dials of all these crazy colors, and we're sat here looking at this. I totally respect that this. I believe this is an enamel dial, so it takes many, many, many hours to produce this dial, gold inlay, and plus those stones are not heat treated.
The stones, yes,
they're not heat treated. So I respect that. It takes many hours of work. It's very expensive to do, but it's just so wacky. And I think they've done that because I was speaking to Bill Vasilis about this, and I think it's the small market, even though there's people that will have a demand for this watch, but Rolex have gone out there and basically almost customized the date themselves, which is in-house and factory, and it's probably going to go for a considerable amount more retail if you're lucky enough to get one retail anyway. I can just see how much this watch would be once someone buys it to resell. Say, I'm sure it'll go for a lot more than it is retail.
Yeah, I think this.
For sure.
This is going to be what the Daytona Tiger is to the date world. I think because that's really wacky when that came out. Don't you think, guys? It wasn't to everybody's taste. It was very much a Marmite watch. It still is to this day.
For me, this is a cross between a Swatch design and something like the Alan Silverstein which had the emojis for the dates, and it's going to be something which someone will buy and hold for decades, and then maybe sold at auction in decades. It's not something that someone will flip in a couple of years.
No, not decades. You won't need to wait decades on this, Thomas.
Yeah, but it's the kind of thing that somebody will hold on for a couple of decades, I reckon. It's a true art piece. It's a collector's piece that has come out of nowhere. It's just been a total bolt from the blue from Rolex. A bolt from the green, should we say?
You look at the history of the date though, from the 70s. They've always been known for producing some very unusual dials. From agate stone dials. Such a variety of experimental.
Lapis lazuli, stone dials.
Such a that's where they get to express themselves. Normally on the date, believe it or not. And I did notice there's a lot of 36 mil very much hitting the Asian market, and I think this will do very well in the Asian market. I think this is targeted at the big 1% of the market who will be gunning to get this piece. Maybe not so big in the Western world. Maybe, in the US might what I'm getting at, the colourful sort of areas as such. But in the UK, we're quite serious watch collectors as such, and in Europe. But I can see in Asia, this will be something that they will be lusting after for sure.
This is for the mega rich buying for their daughters, I think, or even their sons.
This is for Alex.
This is me. Yeah, I'd wear that.
You're that 1%. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because many years ago when I went for Rolex training, they asked us, "What do you think of this Daytona, the Eye of the Tiger? The Rolex Eye of the Tiger?" And all the students, it was only me that put my hand up to say I liked it. They all thought I was nuts. Look now, everyone wants that watch, but I guess they only want that watch because of how much it's worth, the value of what they go for now. So
that plays with your thought process subconsciously.
Yes.
You think you want it because it's desirable. It plays with it's a psychological thing. You think, well, I've got to like it because everyone else likes it. So it's a subconscious thing, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that we need to understand the market that they're going for. This is a market that could go very well for the Middle East, for women, ladies. 36 millimeter is very much desired in yellow gold or in Everose. In Asia, remember, the future in watches is Asia. It's not the old West.
Yeah.
They don't really care if the Chinese, and when the Chinese market opens up and when the economy recovers, these watches are going to picked up. They're going to be picked up like hot cakes. This is really for that market. And even 100%. If we find this, gimmicky and funky and, this is for a woman or a female, Asians love the dial. This dial with the stones is typically Asian. Asian women would die for this watch. Guys.
100%, El Professor. I was speaking to a marketing director. I can't mention the name of the brand. He said to me 15 years ago, we would actually send samples and concepts of our watches to Italy, Milan, because that was the capital of fashion. Now it's going out to Beijing, Hong Kong, South Korea, Singapore. Yeah. So they're very intrigued to make sure that they get the approval from them before they even launch. There's concept pieces, samples go out to them first. So there's a lot of people who would have had this watch in Asia way before it was revealed to the marketplace across Europe, to the Western world. They would have given it the thumbs up. They would have given it the green light. They would have given it to go ahead. And that's what he said to me. That's what's been going on. So unfortunately, we are going to see probably a lot more of this type of stuff coming through, I would have thought, from Rolex in the future. If we thought the Milgauss was the most funky piece in the lineup, look no further. Look what they've done with that OP, with this watch. This is one of many, I believe. They'll be thinking out the box. I think we're starting to see Rolex experiment a lot more, and it probably Tudor will look more of a serious brand in terms of playing it safe, going on the heritage of the old Rolex design, if that makes sense. But one thing I do want to mention, Alex, before we crack on even further, you got it wrong about the clear case back. I didn't want to really bring it up on your show, but
say that. What do you think of Daytona?
How do you feel, Alex?
Yeah, I was looking back. I was pretty determined that they would never, ever, 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 ever make a case back for a sports Rolex, because the movement isn't the best looking movement. And not only did they make a case back, but they changed the movement. So I was
but
totally
they have
wrong.
Decorated it. And it is a special edition piece, isn't it? Mm. And it's not on all, and it's platinum. And most brands, like if you look at Cartier and some of the other luxury brands, will do a clear case back on those rare materials and special editions, if that makes sense. And Rolex have not done it for the lineup. So I'll give you some some leeway there that you weren't totally wrong. It wasn't the sports line, but it is on a special piece. But I mean, my God, what a surprise that was for me to see that, because you did convince me that it would never happen, Alex. So,
I didn't think it would ever happen, but I would say that maybe Artisan de Genève has got something to do with that. But I don't understand how Artisan de Genève is allowed to do what they do, because it's not Rolex affiliated. Because every company that messes with Rolex watches gets cease and desist from Rolex. It's as simple as that. But for some reason, Artisan de Genève has actually on their sapphire glasses on the front, they actually print the Rolex logo. So that's classed as copyright or trademark infringement. So I don't know how they get away with that. I don't know if they've got a license with Rolex, but I know that every company that's done that in the past has disappeared or has been sued.
So you're telling me that the artisan companies out there, they have no license to do that. They do it just by chance. If they get done, they get done.
Yeah,
I mean, I think Rolex only get involved when they are becoming very successful. So they let them do what they're going to do, analyze the market, look how much money they're making. As soon as they start making a lot of money, they hit them with a cease and desist letter, and then they shut them down and they start producing what they were doing and take it from there. A bit like the OP with the colors, the yellow, the Tiffany. Alex, those people were doing that in California, weren't they? From what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you go on my website, you'll see a watch that I restored, and I actually restored the dial green. And the British Horological Institute was saying to me, look, this is touch and go, Alex. You may get a letter from Rolex because you've restored the dial. Even though the dial's original, you restored it green. So technically, you are infringement of Rolex. So, but luckily they've not, now that I've broadcasted this, I won't be surprised if someone reports me, but I've got nothing from Rolex. So, but Mr. Zozo is right, because Bamford was actually customizing Rolexes. And I believe, I don't know 100%, but he did have to stop. He was told
they have stopped. They were going to be
for
massively...
all the Greek followers, Agopsado le mondo.
Yeah.
Agopsado le mondo.
Bamford is out. They're not allowed to produce a single dial again.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're not allowed to. And even there was a company that would be able to, on the Submariner 16610 is the clasp where the Rolex logo is printed on the actual clasp itself. They could redo it. They couldn't do it because it's actually a copyright issue. Even to the point where if you're Rolex authorized, I don't know if this is still happening now, but if you're Rolex authorized, everything in the Rolex window, the cabinets, the like the displays, each authorized dealer gets invoiced. They don't pay anything, but they get invoiced for each item. If that item goes missing or is found to be sold on, they get penaltied and they have to pay for that actual item. And at the end, they have to give back or destroy them. They cannot sell them on. They're not allowed to sell any of the Rolex books or any of the displays. They must destroy or give them back.
Alex, you've got a super chat from Neo.
Yeah.
Where is it?
I think you've missed it. Shall I read it out for you?
Yes, please.
For each panelist, what is the last watch? Oh, it's gone. You moved it?
Oh,
there you go. I'll let you read it. Sorry.
That you brought, brought you childlike joy and awe. Well, for me, it was the Mr. Jones number cruncher. That was like a jump hour with a little. It's a picture of a monster, and in one hand he holds a jump hour, and underneath in his belly the minutes tick along. And it was quite a cheap watch. It was about £300, but it was just a fun watch, and I really liked it. On to D. What was the last one?
For me, what gave me childlike joy. You know what? It's gonna out of all the watches, the one that gave me probably the most happiest childlike joy was the Tudor Chrono Blue Monte Carlo, the cream dial blue version. Right. It's just I got it during the summer. I was out at Bias Skiafos as well. I was wearing that. I really enjoyed that piece. It was like it had the bit of the Hellenic chroman on there, the blue and the cream. You know what I mean? And the amount of compliments I got from that watch when I was on holiday was just a joy to have. That watch, even though I own Rolexes and Omegas, that for me, that watch till now, I have very fond memories of it.
Professor.
Professor.
For me, it was a Casio calculator watch.
Oh,
Data bank.
right.
Data bank.
I actually still have it.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
And you can imagine, somebody doing calculations like myself. Well, you couldn't do any scientific calculations, but you could do basic calculations on your watch, and you looked sophisticated.
Back to the Future. Yeah. Alex.
So mine was, well, I got two, but the first one was the Casio remote controller watch.
Oh, right.
Where you could change the TV, you could do the video player, and I got suspended from school. And the irony is I'm a watchmaker now, but I used to sit in history class, used to switch the TV off, and we used to pass the watch to my mates, and we used to rewind, fast forward the video player. And the teacher ended up taking time off. She took about 6 months off because of the poor lady. We absolutely, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so and the other one was an Omega Seamaster James Bond blue bezel, which I really
I've got
enjoyed
one more
wearing.
actually. I had my relatives from America, these Greek relatives, bought me a Michigan Detroit watch of the actual American football team. It had their theme tune on the watch. So you could set, it was analog, but it also had the digital alarm. And if you set it, the actual theme tune would come on. That was quite impressive. I was like 13 years old, and everywhere I went, I didn't even follow them, but I just found it really cool. So
we got another super chat from Uncle Jonga. He's got one just below.
Alex, you've got 150 people watching tonight. Not bad, eh?
That's a record high, I think. Never thought Rolex would mess with a Daytona case. Sacrilegious, but they have. Initial thoughts of new case design and outer bezel rim. Go on, D.
I like the new outer rim to the ceramic bezel. I didn't like the ceramic bezel on Daytona. I'm not a huge Daytona fan, but I didn't like the bezel, just the ceramic bezel that they plonked on it. And I think the outer rim gives it definition and really frames it in a way like a more of an art piece. It gives it definition. I think it really.
They've played with the design to make it give it the illusion that it's bigger than what it is. I think that's what they were playing at. Because I always felt like when I put a Daytona on, the first initial impression I have, this is a lot smaller than what I remember it. It feels quite feminine. It's like a feminine piece. I think it gives it more of a masculine visual now, Professor. I don't know how you feel about that.
This is exactly what they tried to do. This was a complaint for a very long time, especially over the last 10 years when women predominantly started getting the Daytona in precious metal as gifts or personal, consumption choice. About 40% of the Daytona in precious metal went to women. The green dial yellow gold Daytona predominantly is worn by women.
Yeah.
Although it has been given the name of this musician, I don't know what's his name. I don't really care because we should not be utilizing their names. We should be utilizing their official serial numbers if we're serious about this. Most of them wearing the watch were women, and that was a major issue. It's a woman's kind of watch. And they want to kind of move a little bit away to bring in the attention of those who considered it, as you said, a 38 millimeter watch, and they want to make it look like a 40. Now the case back was only made for the platinum or platinum version, as I call it.
Yeah.
The platinum
Yes.
version.
Yes.
I love that.
Everything else was kept the same.
Yeah.
You know, everything else is kept the same. So they will mean revert to the model that they know best. Because one challenge they have is that if you want to write some wishes, good wishes, or to your loved ones on the back, I mean, where do you put it with an open case back?
Good
You know,
point, yeah.
right? You put it on the side. This is what they've done with the Explorer 2 for the SAS, the anniversary model. But what do you do with the Daytona? It looks ugly on the side on the Daytona. Also, it's not that lengthy, right? So I love you, dear, and you keep out the name. You skip the name.
Do you think that Rolex are being stubborn in regards to the Daytona? Because the Submariner line has got, the Sea Dweller, larger size. I just can't understand why they don't just do a 42 millimeter Daytona. The
Very good
Speedmaster,
question.
the Speedmaster has, it's in 42. Then you've got a 38 or 39 for
Yes,
the
yes.
unisex ladies. Rolex don't seem to acknowledge this. They just stubborn. Fill us in, Professor. I can tell that you've got a good theory on this.
Yeah, this is an ongoing debate because it has to do with the different. We are not yet set in the watch community, in the buying community, that a larger watch is beyond the 41 is something desired by men and women. Rolex cares a lot about women. A lot of the other brands, Patek is not a women's brand. More recently, they moved by making the Aquanaut and the Nautilus and churning out all these colors and filling them with diamonds. But this is, and the Patek 24 with the quartz movement. But that's really because they felt 15 years ago that this is a missing thing from them because they didn't have a woman's watch. Rolex is very conscious that they need to also accommodate for women for the bigger watch case, and also the community, the world is not yet set, because remember, these watches need to go to Asia, and Asians have rather smaller wrists than the Western Hemisphere people. So if you have a Chinese lady with a 40 millimeter Daytona, she looks like she's carrying a dinosaur on her wrist. So there is a bit of an issue. And I think they are kind of settling on this, making small adjustments so it looks 40 and 41, but it's not really 41. The Submariner is not 41. We know that. The Daytona is kind of a 40, although traditionally was 38 and a half.
Yes.
And they're playing with the Yacht-Master. They're still not yet sure. They're toying with a 42. Looking at the appetite, the 40 has really done very well. The precious metal has done fantastically well with women, especially with the Oyster Flex. But the 42 is in a no man's land territory. 42 is really going into men's territory. So the Daytona 42 is going to exclude a lot of the women, and that's a problem for them. Remember, the heavy pieces, the diamonds that go on that, are worn by women, not by men.
Yeah. So what it is, the design team, when they were given the brief, they said our main objective is to give the perception to people that the watch looks a lot bigger, but wears just as it did before. So really, that's hard from a design point of view. It's easy just to design a watch at a larger size, just increase it, whatever. But to give it the illusion, that's where there is an actual skill set to really look at something. Goes, well, I only can tweak very few things, but what can I do to give the illusion that this is a larger piece? And I think they have achieved it in the way they've set the actual the design of the Daytona. Some people basically have said to me, Alex, they don't like it, it's a disgrace or whatever. But I think it's quite clever for me.
Going back to watches, the need their dates in the carnelian orange, the green adventuring, and the turquoise. The date 36. I think they're aimed at women. I mean, if Alex wants to share my screen.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
I think they're aimed at women and the Asian market. Don't you think?
Yeah.
These are beautiful.
Absolutely, Thomas. These are beautiful. Clearly, these are beautiful. I truly love these pieces. These are unique, and they have gone under the radar. I mean, everybody talked about everything else, Thomas, and you are bringing out something very beautiful. These are beautiful watches. Absolutely.
This is what the Day is known for. This is a tradition of Rolex. People don't realize in the 70s, I bought an agate stone dial 36, which was very rare to get an agate stone dial. I regret selling that now. It's just that I thought it would look a little bit weird, but it's more of a piece that you just have in your collection and wear on very special occasions. But for me, this is Rolex doing what they do best within this line here.
But by the way, because there is a question, guys, by Greggy Boy.
Greggy Boy.
You can request these without the diamonds on the bezel.
Yeah. They do them with fluted bezels, without the diamonds. The professor's correct. Yeah.
So these are off catalog, or are they in the catalog? Because
they're in the
actual? They're in the catalog, yeah. Okay.
I believe, yeah.
So out of those three, I probably would go for the orange first, then the green, and then the blue.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah,
but I'd actually like to see what the blue looks like in real life.
Gorgeous, shimmers amazingly like aventurine does, and it sparkles.
Hello, Stavros, I think we need you to join us with that moustache. Come and join us. It's the Greek Watch Show. We've got the El Professor in the house. So, El Professor, tell us a little bit more about yourself, because you're very knowledgeable about watches, and Alex has you in very high regard, and he tells me you're someone with very good credentials. So what's your background?
I am just a mere mortal. No, I just enjoy.
Dice Elenas, just Rascalos.
Yes,
Professor.
Yes. I do tend to be during the day an academic. I try to be an academic, of course, and I live like with you guys in the same country, in one of the three bubble cities, I call them.
Londino?
No. But you have two others.
Thank you.
But I don't want to have the entire watch community flocking me.
I know. Yes.
Telling me, what is going on, Professor? Tell me about watches. I don't want to study anymore. I want to sell. I want to buy and sell watches.
El Professor is a lecturer professor of the School of Watch Mathematics and Watch Trading. 3-year degree course, master's degree, and doctorates available as well at £11,000 a year sterling. Or Professor, I'll get the paperwork ready for you, sir.
That's not bad. You even found the price. You even discovered the price
inflation
point.
We're at another £1,000 every year.
Oh, okay. No, it's great. But no, I learned a lot from you guys, definitely. But
thank you, Giuseppe.
Yeah, and the reason is, you know, a lot of I've got to know a lot of people. Thomas is excellent, and he's part of the history of this community.
Oh,
I
Thomas has been
recently
around a long
got
time. Bad
inducted.
dude.
I recently got inducted, but Thomas, and of course, Alex has been fantastic in what he does, and also others that I've known through these streams. I will recognize, of course, one of them, Mr. Zoso, who is excellent, and Saad,
Oh, yeah,
General
he's a big
Saad.
day man, isn't he, Saad? Is he in the chat
He is
tonight? Or
the king of day dates.
day dates? Yeah,
Off
yeah.
catalog, on catalogs, he will produce a catalog of his own soon for
Wow,
Rolex. The way he's going
fantastic.
at it.
Amazing,
But
amazing.
no, and the other thing is that I do look at the entirety of the Swiss watch industry, and I have been for many years. So I look at it from a holistic perspective and a corporate perspective, not purely a collector's perspective. So I don't look at it as, oh, the die looks nice, let's buy it and flip it or whatever, collect it and die with it. I look at it as a part of my studies and what I do, and
Fantastic.
it's quite telling. The thing I can share with people is that we live in the golden age of watches. Never before in the history of the Swiss watch industry has there been such a hype, a delightful hype, that has really kept the watch industry on its toes over the last few years. I've never seen this before, and I've been involved in the watch industry since the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I was recently in Switzerland, and I'll be going again in a few days. I'll go to Geneva after the watches and bankruptcies, I call it, show, or dreams for some people. You know, they go there and they see the watches and then they dream. Oh, I'll get one day that watch, and then either their bank account doesn't help them or they'll never get it because they're not big enough. And I think this
Professor.
is important. Yes, I can keep on talking forever, guys.
No,
Because
I honestly, I'm
as
very
an
intrigued.
academic, I can, you know.
I think I need your PayPal afterwards to pay you by the hour, because honestly, I'm absorbing it like sponge. You have us all engaged, I have to say. But Professor, I would like to invite you on the 10th and the 11th of June to an event that I'm going to be hosting, A to Z of Watches. My organization is hosting an event at the BQ event showroom called the BQ Watch Show. We've got over 23 brands, and I would love to make you a VIP guest, a special guest there. I'd love to see you there. It'd be great to see you. We've got watches
Thank
that
you.
range from 250,000 right down to 300,000, £300 sterling. So there's going to be watches from around the world. You get the opportunity to try them on, book one-on-ones, and just to name a few, we've got the likes of Cyrus, Chapek, Piaget, Giuliano Mazzilli, Ichabod, and the list goes on from some of the smaller brands as well. So I'd love to have you there. And what's your schedule like for those dates?
Oh, June. I have to look at my schedule. But first of all, thank you very much.
Details after. We'll send you the details after. But yeah, looking forward to it. And yeah, I mean, guys, what did you think of the Tudor releases? Because one thing that I mentioned a while back that I could foresee Tudor going METAS certification to. This is another marketing ploy by Rolex to show that there's no difference between them now and Omega at the moment. Because let's not forget, METAS certification was exclusive and is done by Omega themselves. This is what I can't get my head around, is that they do that certification on Tudor's behalf, or Professor? I don't know if you can fill us in more in regards to this.
No, I don't know, honestly. I don't follow Tudor.
No, I don't really get excited with the Tudor range, to be honest, because as much as they've really pushed a lot of investment into Tudor now, because years and years ago, some years back, Tudor was always seen as the poor man's Rolex. But now, obviously, they've invested a lot of money into Tudor, and that has changed now, considering it's their own movements.
Look at the prices. I was shocked.
Price
Black
change.
base.
But for me, I can't still get it out of my head that it's not a Rolex. It's like it's like the younger brother of Rolex.
Did you see the factory advert? Did you see the advert that they did? They're separating themselves from Rolex now. They've got their separate manufacturing factory. They're trying to go down a different path. I thought that promo video they did was yet again a very strategic in terms of how they're positioning themselves in the market. That we are someone who's innovating technology. We're offering stuff that Rolex don't even offer, but we're on the heels of Omega. Although they've got a long way to go, and Omega have got a much better history and a standalone brand, I just found that very interesting that Rolex now, and with that, you could call it the new Celine, even though they changed their name to 1908. They're producing that sort of dressy look. Did that have a clear case back as well? I recollect. That was another one, the Rolex as well.
1908, yeah.
The 1908.
1908, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? The way they're going.
I really like it. It's a cross between a sort of 1016 dial and a Tudor Ranger dial. It's a lovely dress watch, I think. I don't know whether they're going to. I mean, it's the sort of watch which will buy you access to a Daytona or a GMT.
In Asia, in Hong Kong, for example, the Tudors are found in the same boutique as some of the Rolexes. So in order for you to get a buying history, because they've got a different format than what we have in the West. So speaking to
watches, allow me to say, watches of Zimbabwe. I call them watches of Zimbabwe in the UK. Watches of Switzerland.
Yes.
Are exactly in the same shop. So they have Tudor and Rolex. So you go first and buy 10 Tudors for one Rolex.
Yeah.
So
say that one Tudor that really is a home run is the new white GMT. And if Alex wants to share them a
screen, looks
just
like that. Yeah.
It's just like this 6542 albino Pan Am Rolex, which will cost you £1 million, literally. It cost you about $1 million at auction, because this was brought out in 1958, and there's so few of them. They're made for the executives of Pan Am, and Rolex made so few of them. These are rare as hen's teeth.
This is the vanilla GMT, isn't it?
The albino GMT, yeah, the albino dial, and but for Tudor, the new Tudor, it's almost identical to this, I think, and is a real home run for Tudor. It looks lovely, I think, the new Tudor.
That's beautiful. That, I mean, I think they're playing on that heritage thing, because Rolex never do any reissues. So I think Tudor's always going to be that, like that Tudor Black Bay 54. Looks like one of the early Submariners, doesn't it, Thomas? Did you see that, the 37 mil? I was really shocked about this.
They go for women's market and the Asian market again with the 37 mil Black Bay 54. I think it's a bit of an oddball.
Barro's in the house.
Hey,
go on, Alex. I'll let you read.
Yasu to my sexy brothers. What an awesome way to start my meta. Thank you so much.
This one goes out to our sexy professor in the house.
Yes. GMT, my man.
Thomas, can you put the IWC engineers up?
Oh yeah, that's
as
a cool
well.
piece, yeah.
Because we've just been asked by Django, what's my view on them?
As you're pulling it up, the only thing I want to say is that Tudor is, in my opinion, the most successful watch brand of the last 5 years.
100%. It's one of the most important brands in Switzerland. They keep on telling me in the industry at the moment because of what Rolex are doing. It's clawing back. It's bringing new people into the hobby as well. Their marketing is genius at the moment for sure.
They're in terms of revenue, they're making half of the revenue of Mille,
Wow,
which is astounding.
Yes.
Who's that? Who's making half the revenue of Richard Mille?
Tudor. Okay, and they have done it within 5 years. In 2017, they were number 20, and today they're number 15 in terms of revenues in the entire watch industry of Switzerland.
Yeah, their success rate is percentage-wise nearly 70% better than what Rolex was when they started out, Alex, yeah? This reintroduction of them in 2010, there's no one else at this speed that could capture that size of the market.
And who's in the top 5?
Well, number 1 is Rolex,
Cartier,
right?
number 2.
And then two is Cartier, 3 Omega, Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe, Richard Mille. But Cartier, Omega, Audemars, and Patek Philippe combined is what Rolex is in terms of revenue.
Mm-hmm. But is Cartier just on the watch side, or is the jewelry side also included, or is it just
only watches? Only watches.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cartier have done really well, haven't they? To get that.
Cartier is fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic. But they took over in 2020. They took over from Omega. Omega was number 2 after Rolex, and then Cartier became number 2, and now Omega is 3. And Patek Philippe has been creeping up. Now Patek has overtaken Audemars, and Audemars is Audemars is number 3. Patek is number 4. But what is interesting, guys, about these figures is that Audemars produces about 50,000 watches, and Patek close to 74,000. But I'll use the 22 numbers, which is roughly 68,000, give or take, right? 500 pieces. Audemars produces less, and they're at number 3, and Patek produces more. And Patek has the highest cost per watch, which is around 36,000 euros per piece, much higher than Audemars. And Audemars is number 3 in terms of revenues. The only way I can explain this, and this is where I get into my world, because this is my world, is that Audemars has a huge after-sales service side where they make a lot of money and charges a lot for that. That's the only way I can explain it.
So I want to do a shout out to Greggy Boy, doing a great job in the admins tonight, moderator, and Ian Okumbaros for supporting us throughout everything. It's always good to have those guys. The fragrance specialist and our Keo ambassador, Ian Nicholson, always representing for sure, and Mythos for El Professor as well. They sort of forget about that drink as well. But one thing, El Professor, that I'm always intrigued about is when not a smaller brand, but a lower value per timepiece brand like Tissot are in the top 10, aren't they? I believe in watch sales. I mean, how many watches do they need to sell to get in the top 10? They must be selling a huge amount of watches internationally, because in the UK, Tissot is known, but it's not that popular.
Yes, but they are significant producers of watches. Tissot is very, very present in the market. Absolutely.
In Europe than most places, aren't they? Yeah.
Hello, Professor. My mum says hello.
Yeah.
She's watching.
Yes. Very, very nice to meet you. Yes.
This is for the Alexis so Naco Noctis Bob said, but so the IWC in Genoa, I mean,
seem
For
to
me, when
know.
I see this, I love the Gerald Genta vibe that it portrays.
Yeah, I'm not so much a fan of it, to be honest with you. But I mean, I know it's got a new movement, and it's just that checkerboard dial appealed to me in the crown guard.
Very retro. It's very retro feel, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
So many different color dials on this one, Alex, or is it just the black?
Look, personally, it's almost like someone's got that picture from 1970s. It's got a very retro feel, a very IWC retro feel, and it doesn't.
It hasn't changed much, Alex. Let's be honest.
No,
It's
it doesn't
always
excite
not.
me.
It's always not. It's always like a run-down version of the, of what he's trying
Exactly. And for me, I got the big Pilot's IWC, and as Oshin says, it's a very strong masculine man's watch. And it is one of my favorite watches, the Big Pilots. It is a beautiful, beautiful piece. You can't wear it with a shirt, as in like a suit shirt, because it won't go over the collar. But as an everyday watch, it's one of my favorites. But the other IWC range, the Portuguese, is nice if you don't mind the IWC, the 7750 movement. But certain other IWC models, unless you go into the high complication pieces, they don't really excite me that much.
no, I mean, this is what, £12,000, and to be honest with you,
It's a bit stale, I would use.
for £2,000, I would go for this. To be honest with you, I'd go for £2,000, and I'd save myself £10,000 for something else. This has got the same sort of bezel, the Alpina. Not everyone's taste, of course.
I haven't seen Alpina for a long time. I haven't seen any new release. I don't really follow them, but I've held them in my hand, and they seem a good. What's the RRP on this, Thomas?
This is 2,000 euros. 2,000
euro.
euros.
Yeah.
Right, and then for the regulator, 2,500 euros. But I'd for the engineer at £12,000, I'd buy one of these, and I'd save myself £10,000 to buy another watch.
You've got a new fan, Alex. Stavros in the house. We're having
Stavros.
next.
Stavros Papadopoulos.
The Greek band. Look, this show today, I said, we'll call it the Greek Watch Show. This is what we come for, our Viagra Bears, our holidays, our vacation, a relaxed, chilled environment with a bit of banter that we, let's not take YouTube too seriously. Let's just, have a bit of fun with it. You know what I mean? It's all good. Sorry,
you ever drank raw eggs, Professor?
What? Sorry.
You ever tried raw eggs? You ever drank raw eggs? I've never done it myself, to be honest.
No.
I've never understood why. Because I think people started doing that when they're watching the Rocky films. Do you remember when Sly Stallone did it in Rocky, and then everyone started getting salmonella?
Yeah.
Something about Tissot. I was looking at the numbers. Tissot produces every year about 2.8 million watches, and the revenue for Tissot is roughly 750 million euros.
Wow. But they're the most faked. They're more fake Tissots out there than there are Rolexes, because they make them in China and they're very easy to replicate. And most people that buy their Tissots off eBay, they don't even know it, but their watch is probably not real. But it's just as good as the original. The only thing that differs is probably even the movements. They've probably got ETAs out in them as well, right? I mean, it's mad, isn't it? To be fair, Tissot is one of those phenomenons, isn't it? Really.
There's a big market in the middle range of watches, especially Tissot. Huge market. There's huge profits.
I think you mentioned this, Alex. People that sell that price range of watches live a very happy, easy life without the worry that goes alongside luxury watches with theft and insurance and so on. You can live a life of Larry, knowing that you don't have to worry about the dangers of what comes alongside selling luxury timepieces, for sure.
Exactly. No, I agree. Yeah.
So,
Professor, I'm sorry.
Sorry, go, Alex, go.
Professor, I've got something to show you.
Yeah,
Do you remember we were talking about Frank Muller?
Ah,
So
yes.
this
This is a serious watch.
is very serious. This
Oh,
has
yeah.
36.
Mashallah.
This has 36 complications in it. If you can look,
Wow.
I don't know if you can see. And I've just posted. It's the I don't know how you say it. Eternitas Mega 4, which is the divine and personification of eternity. That's what it means. So this was made by Frank Muller, and I'm just going to go through the complications that this watch has. Are you ready? Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
So we've got day-night indicator, grand sonnier, petit sonnier, silent mode, minute repeater, Westminster chime with 4 gongs, programming of the grand sonnier or petit sonnier function via water-resistant button with display on the dial, programming of the sonnier or silent mode function via water-resistant button with display on the dial, mechanism for isolating the sonnier, the time is being set, mechanism preventing the sounding of new sonnier if the preceding one has not finished, bolting mechanism for setting the time while sonnier is sounding, transmission mechanism to the hammers, allowing adaptation to different shape of the gong, movement power reserve, sonnier power reserve, silent centrifugal regulator of the sonnier rate of striking, flying tourbillon on a bearing with ceramic balls, balance with gold adjustment screws without index, Breguet overcoil with Phillips curve, flying tourbillon cage without bridge, visible in the dial, automatic self-winding of the movement via platinum micro-rotor, automatic self-winding of the Westminster chime via platinum micro-rotor, perpetual calendar, day display, month display, retro date display, circular calendar, year display of up to 999 years, leap year display, circular year display. An astronomical moon phase is only 6.8 seconds out every lunar month. That is 1 day over 1,000 years. Did you hear that?
It should be called the Fantasmenos Roloi.
Fantasmenos Roloi. I'm going to say it again. Astronomical moon phases only 6.8 seconds out every lunar month. That is 1 day over 1,000 years. Listen to this. Equation of time, 2 additional independent time zones, integrated chronograph with 3 column lever wheels, instantaneous minute counter, hour counter integrated with the chronograph mechanism, retrograde display, flyback hand mechanism. So if anyone tells me again they don't respect Frank Muller,
no, he is for the ignorant. They will remain ignorant. Frank Muller is the personification of a magician when it comes to watches.
Yes,
he's one of the most talented person. And people don't know about Frank Muller. They just talk about Patek and Lange. That's fine. Patek is the expensive version of Rolex for the ignorant. Frank Muller is 10 standard deviation points, if there is such a thing. I'm exaggerating now, but I would say 4 standard deviations from the mean. If the mean is Patek or Lange,
Let's
he's
not forget
above everybody.
the Torno case was made by Frank Muller first before RM got their hands on that design. Frank Muller was the first to do that.
RM. Let's be serious. I mean,
homage of Frank Muller.
Well, RM Richard is a very talented marketeer. Frank was never a marketing person.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
sorry. The watch sold for 2.1 million, and it has 1,483 components on the movement plate. That's just nuts. I can't.
Alex, do you think you could send me a copy of that for Christmas?
What, the book?
People are asking actually about the book, Alex.
Yeah. What is that book, Alex?
Okay. I've got this from the Waterstones, Rare Watches, and it's got Jean-Claude Biver And Ariel Bax is the guy of, I believe, Philips. And obviously, most people know Jean-Claude Biver.
Of course. Yeah. No,
It's a great book.
It's a fantastic. Unfortunately, Frank Muller makes he makes now 20,000 pieces, but the revenue is nothing close to that of the other big guys.
Frank Muller's great on the used market, though. You can pick up some really good deals on Frank Muller's. You're paying 60% off RRP, aren't you, really, on some of them, which is a real shame for the brand. But if you love the piece, why not?
Yeah, unfortunately, you're absolutely right. It doesn't have a solid secondary market. It's gone. It has gone. It has been like this for, I would say, 12, 14 years, Alex.
Frank Muller.
Quite some time. Yeah, in the secondary market, the prices have been falling. I could get a 40 to 60% discount at some point. Massive, right, Thomas?
Yeah, I mean the Vanguard Skeleton Tourbillon, they got domed crystals above the tourbillon, and they're just fascinating watches. I mean, yeah, tip my hat to Frank Muller sometimes.
Do you know what this is here? This is Lawrence of Arabia's watch. I actually had a chance to buy this watch.
Really?
Really? Wow. What brand is this? What is that?
Omega. And Omega bought it back and stuck it in their museum. Yeah, at the actual Lawrence of Arabia.
Okay, so I have a similar story. I put a bid for his house.
What, Lawrence's house?
Yeah.
Where did he live?
In the UK, in Oxford.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That beats his watch, for sure.
So, but of course, the house went for much more than what I bid for.
Always the case. So has anyone got any questions in the chats?
Yeah, now's your time. If you want to get, if you want to super chat Alex to help towards his protein fund, as you can see, we've set some goals at the intro, how we want Alex to look in the next 6 months, as he is of Greek origin. It is in his DNA. He's got a natural frame, but with the right protein, the right grass, creatine comes from the Greek word. Grass, creatine comes from the Greek word.
That's right, grass, creatine. Yeah, that's true.
So we need that protein fund, guys. Don't be afraid to help Alex achieve his key goals and objectives for 2023. Alex, no one wants to help you out.
No, it's all right.
Your guns are too big as it is, to be fair.
I'm just gonna shrink. Don't worry about it. But this morning, I had a nice breakfast. I had 6 eggs and 3 rashers of bacon.
You know what I had?
What?
3 luganiga, the village style, in the
for breakfast.
For breakfast, I had grilled halloumi, few olives, and watermelon as well.
Patiha or garbuzi, as they say in Greece.
That's a separate version, isn't it? Yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah, very nice. Galamatya olives as well. Oh, Professor.
Kalamata olives.
Yeah, Kalamata, yeah.
Oh, Kalamata olives.
Yeah,
we need to go. We need to go to GMT's outfit in Darwin. We need to fly there.
Yeah.
Alex, as a watchmaker, what's your opinion on Oris? I must admit, some years back, I wasn't sure with Oris, but now the fact that they made their own in-house movement, I think is it an 8-day movement D that they did?
Something like that, yeah. I met with them, didn't we? We were talking with them at Watch Pro and stuff about a few things. Yeah, I mean, Oris are one of those brands which doesn't appeal to everybody, like most brands at that price point, but they've got a bit of a cult following, haven't they, really now? And they, for the price, they're very good quality, I mean, some designs I'm not that keen on, but some watches they produce I quite like.
Yeah,
the Aqua, what do you call it? Aquis.
I like the Diver 65. That's quite a nice watch. I mean, the Pro Pilots are quite nice. The Big Crown Pro Pilots and that new
Save the Ocean was quite cool. I thought that was quite a good idea. How they used the recyclable plastics in the case back I think that was really cool. What they did there. But
frog one they brought out. A bit funny, isn't it? With the green dial and the Kermit the Frog in the date window. That's a bit of a funny one.
Alex, so, Mark Bowman, Alex, what's your thoughts on glass shoe, especially movement-wise? Glass shoe. There's one glass shoe that they make. I think it's called the glass shoe. Is it Senator? I think it's called the Senator. Is that right, Thomas?
I'm not sure. I know they do a Senator, I think.
Can you pull it up?
Pull that up.
Yeah, please. And there's a reason why I say this, because it is one of my favorite glass shoes. It's got like a cushion case. It just has that like sort of retro feel with it. But whenever I see glass shoe, it always reminds me of a cheaper version of Lang & Son. So I always go for more of the Lang & Son. I mean, because if you just pay that extra, but then again, all Lang & Sons are stupidly expensive. I mean, the most cheapest pre-owned, I think, is around 10 to 12K, and that's for the most basic manual wind one. But glass shoes, I remember glass shoe was selling in Selfridges in Manchester. I don't think they are anymore. And there was huge discounts on them. I mean, we're talking at least 40, 50%. There was big cuts on their prices. Because I don't
Big
think
serious statement from Ian Nicholson. He had 15 Luganiga and 12 bottles of KO. Bravo.
He had 15 sausages.
Yeah.
And how many
12
bottles of beer?
12 bottles of KO. KO, the Cypriot beer. Yeah, we've adopted Ian as one of our fellow Hellenic Gibrels, so we've adopted him.
Yeah, Alex, I wanted to ask you, Thomas, you might know as well, please. Mr. GMT has a good question. Is Frank Muller still alive?
Yes, he is. Yes, I believe he is. He's completely disappeared, but I believe he's still alive.
Yeah.
I think he had a few personal issues, but
that's right.
Which is a shame.
Because I know
Who hasn't
of
known
him.
nowadays?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I heard he had some personal issues, and plus he had some difficulty selling his business, and it kind of went a bit. It kind of went a bit haywire who he sold to. I think there was some sort of corruption, or. But also Jacob and Co has got a bit of an interesting past as well. I don't know if you're aware of that. He's and also Di Grisigono. I love Di Grisigono, but they went bump because I believe the money that they were putting into the business was going into some other investment, which was apparently a scam or something. I don't know how true it is, but that disappeared.
Di Grisigono is an interesting case because they evolved from jewelry to watches and from watches to jewelry. And back in the 2000s, the one who got involved was the manager of Ferrari. Do you remember the guy with the long hair, the Italian? He tried to bail them out.
And it didn't work. It didn't work.
No, it didn't work.
Di Grisigono, does it come from the word Crisafi? Crisafi, as in gold. Because I know Acrivia, the brand Acrivia it means expensive, doesn't it?
That's right, Acrivia, yeah.
And if it didn't, it was inspired by it.
I mean, what is this is Jacob & Co offering for $20 million. This one cost.
This looks like a Mason type, Illuminati type doll, doesn't it? A little bit. I don't know if I'm seeing it. You know what I'm getting at with the triangles.
What is that? That's disgusting.
20 million. It's a tourbillon in the back. It's just look at that on the wrist.
That is disgusting. Look, it's art in terms of how they set those gems and the fact that that's their natural color. That's amazing. But as a watch, it's I don't get it. I don't. That's for that's a very small niche market.
Absolutely.
It's like
It
a
just looks wrong,
Saudi.
doesn't it? Even way it doesn't tape. It's a small piece, but it just doesn't tape around your wrist properly. Did you see that? It just looks like it looks all right. It's a piece. Oh, I don't know. That just looks like some bracelet with a watch mechanism in there, doesn't it? So
That'll suit you, do.
yeah. When I'm more of a drag queen, maybe in the past life.
$20 million,
This is the Pat Butcher look in EastEnders. This is the Pat Butcher look, you know.
yeah.
Guys, we've been on for a while, haven't we? Now on 25 minutes. It's I'll be honest, I've been on the computer all day, Alex. I tell you what, I do prefer Thursdays are good for me, Alex. If you guys are good for Thursday evening, that means I get to enjoy my weekend and the family time, guys. It's been 6 o'clock in the morning till now on the computer all day, guys. I feel that I'm seeing blotches on the screen at the moment.
Well, Giuseppe Bruno, did you know Frank Muller was the first watchmaker to create a tourbillon visible from the front?
I wasn't aware of that.
No, I didn't.
Big plug out, Giuseppe Bruno, Brothers in Time.
Brothers in Time, trusted watch dealer, not part of the mission, more part of this cartel. But now the thing is, if you look back at the history of Frank Muller introduced fun into watchmaking. If you go back, you will see he made watchmaking fun, because before Frank Muller, it was a very serious business. The Swiss are very serious, and
it was him and Gerald Genta with the Mickey Mouse.
Now
with the Mickey Mouse dial.
That's right. Yeah, him and Gerald Genta, I believe, got together and made one particular watch.
Bravo!
I don't know if Thomas can pull it up. Thomas, you're like the guy from Joe Rogan. Thomas, you know the guy that Joe Rogan has this. But they made a watch together, and it was highly complex. It was a ridiculous complex piece. Frank Muller, not as in the yogurt.
And just for the history, Frank was also one more recently hears of the name of Sven Andersen. Mr. GMT has heard it so many times. I heard it so many times that soon I'm going to go to this Andersen guy and kiss him, from a friend that has produced a watch from him. But if anything that Sven Andersen was known for, Frank was actually sitting with him, and they were sitting talking about watches and repairing watches, and there was a lot of influence of Frank into Sven Andersen. He, in my opinion, Frank, despite all the things that have been said about him and his own personal life, is, in my opinion, the most underrated watchmaker in the world today. And that's what happens. I mean, the company produces barely 150 million euros in terms of revenue, whilst Jacob & Co. produces 2,000 pieces and makes more money. You know?
Wow, I did not know that. Do you like the Jacob & Co. watches that are out now?
Absolutely not. It's an abomination.
Yeah.
It is a jewelry thing, and it's the higher you go with whatever you pile it on. You know, it's like it's a Richard Mille without the diamonds.
So do you not like Richard Mille?
No.
What do you don't like them?
No, I don't like them. I consider them to be, for what they're selling and how it was developed, the brand and the movement. As you know, there is a lot to be said about the movement. No, I think that look, there will always be a market. Let me put it this way: there will always be a market for a $500 million watch, and I know billionaires who wear these watches easily. And I know millionaires who pretend to be billionaires and buy even more of these watches. Unfortunately, yeah, is he part of the high horology? Certainly, you have to place him because he has done something to the brand from nowhere and produced a watch for that segment. But Frank Muller produces a fantastic watch and nobody knows about it, right?
Yeah, with RM, I've always struggled. I'm always very positive about most watch brands and try and see the positive and everything. But the thing what I struggle with RM is to be an advocate of their prices. I just find them, I still to this day, for what you're paying, and you get a Velcro strap, and some of them start, 200,000, £1 million, ridiculous amount of money. When you don't really have that heritage and pedigree of like the Holy Trinity, if that makes sense, Professor.
But credit, Alex, you have a little bit of noise. We're hearing your flipping.
Oh, sorry. It's just that I'm sure
got a
that's
message
the
from your
watch.
mum. Beduna stamatisi.
Exactly.
Stop that now.
Tell him to stop. Tell him to stop. Yeah, that's what your mom says. But look, to recognize also the effort of Richard Mille. He did out of nothing, out of nowhere. He produced a brand, and he went for the very wealthy segment, the crazy guys who were willing to pay 250, 400. And back in 2009, I mean, very few went for it. Today, they're dying. This is if you are a billionaire, this is what you buy. You don't buy Patek Philippe. Patek Philippe is for the cheap guys, right? I mean, you buy a Richard Mille if you are into it, and if you are a footballer, if you are whatever. Yeah, if you're really wealthy, rich, is Rolex. Wealth is something very different. Wealth is for Richard Mille, and he created a niche for himself.
Ultra rich.
I don't know if this is Genta, Frank Muller, but this is the.
That's basically the watch that
you want.
No, it's actually the same watch that I just. It was in the book. It's exactly the same piece. Yeah. Wow. It's exactly the same watch. Yeah.
There's a lot going on there, isn't there? That's for sure. So it's like retrograde, different subdials.
36 complications.
Perpetual calendar. I bet it's a chronograph as well, no?
Yeah, it's 36 complications in it.
Jesus Christ. Stavron. I never said it.
This is a very, very, very interesting question, guys, from no Rolex, no sex. But Mr. GMT has Rolex and sex, going back to him to recognize him. But what do you think about this, Thomas?
When was Richard Mille first released? Has no heritage. I don't think the watch brand needs heritage. Do you think the watch brand needs heritage? No, I don't think it does need heritage. I mean, there's a market for everything, and Richard Mille have certainly got their niche, and the Richard Mille do work on their work hard on their watches. I mean, I know Theodore Deal works for them now, and he wrote a good book on Caravutulainen, and he knows a lot. And I've heard him speak, and he's sort of justified a lot of the things that I thought were wrong about Richard Mille, and he's actually brought me around to thinking that some of them might be quite good watches, and you've just got to be open-minded about things. Yeah, I don't know about the rest of you.
Look, Giuseppe put a pretty cool comment after his little Google research there.
I know a lot say that Richard Mille for people who have got too much money and don't know about watches. But yeah, I mean,
They weren't that expensive though, Thomas. When they first came out, I remember watching a video. Yanni from Yanamize bought an RM from Harrods. Just walked straight in, put down 70k, and walked out with an RM. And now they've gone down the same path as all the others with their marketing. The rarity, they've created that hype. They're one of the first to do it, you know, even before some of the other big brands, you know. And they actually buy their own pre-owned watches. Like if you go down Bond Street, RM have got a used boutique. They go in there and they'll pay market value. They even control the secondary market. They know exactly what they're doing, RM. But that's why I struggle with their prices, because I think there's so many other watches I'd prefer to buy at that price point.
So would you say that their price structure is artificial like diamonds?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean they're controlling both sides, so it naturally gives that illusion that the watches are worth that much. Because as far as whenever I hear that somebody owns an RM, I never really bother which model it is. The fact that they own an RM, they have a significant amount of money.
yeah.
That's
It's a
the way I
members
look at
club.
it.
It's become a members club. It's like Bugatti. You join
It
a
is.
members club when you buy. You're part of a certain network of individuals.
Yeah.
You buy into that network. As soon as you get into an RM, if you got it from the authorized dealer, the boutique, you are suddenly part of that high net individual network that you get invited to these places. Everybody that's there are CEOs or celebrities or high-end individuals. Same with Bugatti and same way that Ferrari. That's why people buy into the brand a little bit, to be able to network amongst those individuals to give themselves those new business opportunities. Because this is what it's all about. It's very clever in the way they manipulate things.
It's the illusion of scarcity, isn't it? It's the illusion of scarcity, illusion of very hard to come by. You know, it's
They produce, Alex, RM produces roughly 5,300 watches a year. The revenue from that is about 1.3 to 1.4 billion euros. You know, this is a crazy figure. Patek is a little bit higher, and they're producing, 68,000 pieces, and they're coming up with everything. So what he has done is amazing for the duration he has been in the industry. It's an amazing history of RM. RM is, for me, and what you said, I'll add to it. I have a friend. You go to places that he frequents in Switzerland, and it's just the billionaires club. I asked him, why don't you have a Rolex? And he says, Rolex is for poor people.
Yeah,
I have limited edition Audemars. You, my friend professor, you're a professor. You got a Rolex. This is for common people, middle class, aspirational piece. But for me, he buys RM only, and he buys for 500,000, 700, 1 million. And it's exactly the same concept. These guys want to buy the limited everything. He has a collection of 30 Ferraris, 10 Lamborghinis, I don't know what Porsche. Porsche is like, barbecue. Souvlaki. It's like souvlaki for him.
Yeah. It's like,
right?
It's like Rolex is like gyros. Doner kebab.
Yeah, no, he looks he looked at me one day.
The lamb, on the spit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, and I tell him, look, if I wear Richard Mille and I go to university, first of all, they won't understand what I'm wearing. They'll think I'm wearing a hideous watch because it's huge. But in your world, they understand what you're wearing, right? They will look down on you if you're wearing a Rolex, but if you're wearing a Richard Mille and you go to an event of Richard Mille, somewhere, you will see other people, and it's exactly that. It's the network. It's a special events. It's not the champagne. People have that segment talks about yachts and jets, and exclusive summer vacations, and they go in the winter. They go to Gstaad and Courchevel. They don't go to Ayia Napa like me and Crete.
Listen, INAPA's going up market though now. Fia sin xenos, Dora, and it's become a family-orientated place.
Well,
I have a house. I have a house near 15 minutes from Iron Up, and it's changed, you know. But I understand your. I think Jacob and Co are trying to become this members club as well. That's what they're aiming for. This is what it's all about.
Yeah. Get producer Michael on board and you know, do this cruising.
I just going regarding brands. I don't think brands need to have heritage anymore, because we have the likes of social media now, and the world has
Sure.
the world has become smaller. So this has accelerated the need for heritage. I don't really hear people say, well, not everybody, but majority of people I speak to regarding watches don't say, I bought this watch because of its heritage. They usually say, I bought this watch because my mate has it, or I just want to get on the ladder of Rolex, or a lot of these people just buy the watch because of not peer pressure, but because, well, yeah, I will actually, yeah, I know a lot of them will buy it because they, feel the need to buy it to be part of the gang and follow other people. I don't think that's wrong to say. I think that's actually quite true.
Non-car enthusiasts buying Bugattis, for example, they're not buying it for the speed. They're buying it for the members' exclusivity that you get when you buy that vehicle. They won't even drive it. They'll keep it in their car garage and so on. And the same with, an entry point to a members club is even a 911 Turbo S or a GT3 at a lower level. They started this thing, so that's their little runaround. But this is how it's become with the watch world. And this is what's really the sad thing about it, that these timepieces are not really made for the watch enthusiasts anymore, Alex. They're made for financial reasons only. They're not done for any other reason, to be honest with you. Like that one, what was that watch that you showed earlier with that, all the rubies and diamonds and that bracelet?
Yeah, Jacob.
We're never going to look at that.
$20 million. Yeah.
You're buying that someone who's fed by the silver spoon, or money is no object. They can burn money like that, or someone who's looking at the investability of that timepiece going forward.
Yeah, and I don't think Richard Mille could ever go through a situation where its reputation could be damaged. I think they've cemented their place in the watchmaking industry now, to the point where I saw one Richard Mille that looked like sweets. He actually had sweets on the dial. And I thought, what are these guys doing? But it's going for ridiculous amounts of money. Yeah. So whatever they do, it seems that there is a huge market for it. It's a huge market for Richard Mille's. There always will be, I think.
You're right. You're right, Alex. I think that heritage is important depending on the brand.
Sure.
Patek Philippe its platform is based on heritage. It's the next generation. You buy it and you give it to your son. You die, he dies, somebody gets it. It has residual value. It's there for you. Heritage is important for them. Rolex doesn't play on heritage. It plays on active, professional, sporty, dynamic people, right? There is the heritage plays less than a role, because what's a heritage? 100 years? Patek Philippe looks down on these guys saying, oh my God, what are you guys doing? Yet their revenues of Rolex is 9.5 billion euros versus Patek, which is struggling at 1.6, 1.7. And Richard Mille is producing 2,500 pieces, and they're closing up on Patek, right? I mean, it's very scary. The other thing that is happening is that there is a lot of money out there, guys, that has changed the watch industry. In the early 2000s, day dates was not the thing of your ordinary person. I was sitting in Milan 8 months ago and went to a Rolex AD. It was a big event, and I was invited. And I was waiting in line, and it was raining, and behind me was a young kid, 24-year-old banker from London. And I asked him, what I said, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm here to buy a day date. I said, okay, what do you do at the bank? Are you the CEO? He said to me, no, I'm just an analyst. I said, what the hell? What analyst, man? You're making zero money. You're making no money. You're actually paying the bank to hire you. I was polite. He said to me, well, sir, I actually told him I was a board member of your bank. So, I'm supposed to be getting the day date. Not you. What's going on? The guy was 24, I'm 50, and here I am trying to understand. He said, no, it's not my first day date. I actually have a collection of day dates. And 15 years ago, this never happened. Never happened. You wouldn't, so something is really, there is a lot of money out there, guys. And this is, again, the golden age of watches.
Yeah, Mr. GMT, most important thing to against the way watches and stay sexy. That's right. And we've got another super chat from
Thank you, GMT. So Neo says, another Elena, they currently have the world's thinnest watch that take exceptional horology. If all watches are worth $1, I will buy more RMs than Rolex. I heard that they're having trouble with that. I'm guessing he's talking about RM. I heard that they're having trouble with that.
The Ferrari one, yeah.
Yeah, that thinnest watch. Yeah, there's. I don't know if it's.
I don't like it. I'll be honest, I don't like the way it looks.
1.8 million. I didn't like it either.
The Bulgari was the thinnest, and then Richard Mille. Yeah, the Octofinissimo Bulgaria. Not just being biased because it's Italian Greek, but it's always the Octofinissimo is a stunning watch.
I think the Piaget Altiplano was thinner than that even.
Yes, that was really thin. Piaget, but Piaget has always had an issue selling. It's never been a great seller. It's more in the Middle East, I believe, that there is a market. And Piaget make jewelry as well, and their jewelry is actually pretty decent. Now Cartier jewelry is exceptional. I think their jewelry is better than their watches. Because Cartier jewelry is expensive.
Yes, definitely.
Ask Liz Taylor. She had some nice Cartier jewelry.
But I mean, Neo's right. I mean, it does take exceptional horology to make a 2mm watch.
Yeah, it does. Look, there's no doubt in that, the engineering behind it all and the innovation. Because it's not, the other brands have stayed a bit stale in terms of innovating and what they're doing at a smaller scale. What is that done by robot or what, Alex? How would they engineer that? Because it's too small to handle an actual watchmaker. It'd have to be engineered by some sort of robot or something. And I don't know how. Can you imagine a watchmaker getting that, trying to give it a service? It's impossible.
You can't put it in a movement holder or anything. It's just, I don't know how you would even work on that watch.
You blow on it and it would disappear.
Exactly. I don't see the point. I mean, okay, there's thin and there's thin. Blancpain at one point were the leaders of thinness of movements, and then I think Piaget, and then Bulgari, and now RM. But I don't see the point of it. I don't get it. I mean, it's not functional anymore, in my opinion. You can't wear it every day. I don't see how you could wear that watch every day, considering how thin it is. You'll be too scared to maybe hit your hand, or you might drop it. You don't know, but I don't think it's anything. It
was made to be part of its heritage. I think in 100 years' time, they would say RM produced the thinnest watch. That is something they were the first to do. And when you're the first to do something like that, you're in the historical books, you're in the history of watchmaking. And I think that's what the ideology was in regards to that timepiece. And I think when we talk about watchmaking in 100 years, when we're not here, they'll be talking about that piece, the future of watchmaking. If mechanical watches are going in 100 years' time. To be fair,
Yeah.
Well, Rolex were the first, weren't they, for sealing? You know, the oyster case. So
what's the case? Yeah.
yeah. So I suppose.
Evalineron.com.
But look, I can
I'm going to call it a night in a bit. I'm going to call it a night in a bit. Unless I'm sorry, boys. But
we need to.
Any more questions?
Don't forget, Alex. You got to go out with the video outro.
Oh yes, yeah. Don't worry, we're going to put that on.
Don't forget the protein fund, boys. All your contributions tonight will go towards Alex's protein. I will be acting as Mick, his trainer in the Rocky films. We have the El Professor on board to be the dietitian, and we've got Mr. Motivator in the
There
house.
goes the diet.
No,
Souvlaki every day. Souvlaki.
Hummus, tarabo salada. You name it, we'll be part of the diet, boys and girls.
Have we got any more comments?
Actually, I wanted to say that heritage is all about what you make of it. And the story of Thomas about the watch he bought from his childhood friend has a lot of heritage equal to that of RM, Thomas. Your story about that of course.
How I got into watch collecting, yeah. Buying a cheap watch from a friend, buying a very nice watch, expensive military watch, for £7 from a friend who wanted the money to buy some cigarettes. Yeah, it was a military watch, Seiko quartz, used by Army Air Corps helicopter pilots, and yeah.
When was this, Thomas?
1990, when I was at college, and my friend stole it from his father to sell it to me because he wanted some cigarettes, and I got it for £7. They're now selling for over £700, and it's a Seiko 7828-7120. It's called a Gen 1.
Nice.
Well, this reminds me of the story when USSR was collapsing and their currency was absolutely dismal, that they would actually exchange Marlboro Lights cigarettes for currency. So when you told me that story, I thought of that straight away. That's why I asked the date. I thought, you can't be that old.
That's pretty old, isn't it? Was it 94 as well?
So
I hope you enjoy. What is everyone doing after the show? I'm going to get a bite to eat. Haven't eaten anything yet. I'm going to order something. I'll probably go. I'm thinking what I'm going to do.
I'm going to get
Tony's Souvla tonight.
I'm going to get a shower and get ready to go to Watches and Wonders tomorrow, because that's where I'm flying up to.
Have a great, safe trip, Thomas. And say hello to Anna from A to Z.
Yeah, and don't forget, everyone, give us a thumbs up if you can. And if you haven't subscribed yet, press that subscribe button.
Don't forget to follow Thomas at the Escapement Show, top show. And thank you all for the show.